Alright guys, I'm going to start this video off with this, but it will lead into exactly why I'm showing you this. So Spaceman, I'm going to go with the solid coil housing instead of the one with the cutouts. It's actually easier to print. In fact, this is printing really nice. Um, but when I next start recording, I'll be out in the garage with all the parts. I won't have all the new coil housings, but I'll have all the parts that I've printed so far. And here's my setup. This is my Ender 3 Pro. I've made some modifications like to the LCD screen. I put a handle on the Z-axis and a handle on the extruder, which the extruder handle really helps out. That's my camera for when I'm doing things. But anyway, yeah, I'm going with the solid coil housing. It prints out real easy and fairly quick, like 2 hours. So once this guy prints out, I'll go out to the garage, which will be instantaneous for you. But for me, it'll be a little while. All right, so I'm going to try to run through this. So I'm in collaboration with a YouTuber called SpaceManAust. And I think the Aust stands for Australian. And he's got some mad CAD skills. And he designed this guy first. And so this is a back plate, and there's a plate on the other side. Here's the stand. These three things are coils. There's a main gear in the middle and three planetary gears. These coils are attached to this back plate. So this ring has magnets in it, like about, 30 of them. Little small round magnets, little disc magnets or squares. It doesn't really matter. And so the theory is when these coils are energized, this ring would spin around. So that was the first attempt. Then as we were going along, he was coming up with better and better ideas. So the very first, actually, this is the final, which has a lot less parts, and the coils are much bigger. And the reason why we did this was because he had engineered this guy here as a coil, and it's great. It comes in two pieces. Took forever to print this stuff out. The only problem is winding it, because it has to wind from within in this little chamber here and around. So it would just be a nightmare to wind. So we 86'd that idea and went for this, which is really simple to wind. Bum, 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 bum. And here's the coil housing. So it would go like this. This guy, so these guys here interlock. Let me find one that's an interlocking one. So they interlock like that. And then this coil goes in between there. And then of course the ring is going to move through here, right? Still having the planetary gears. So this is what I've done so far. Actually, I've printed out all the parts. I spent a lot of time printing these. I love this idea. It's just that it's a nightmare. It would definitely be a nightmare to print. Here is a miniature design of what we're doing. I can't get that. There we go. Yeah, so here's like a miniature design. And so the gears are printed in two halves. and they're a V shape, so it's a V type gear, which kind of lends itself to staying centered in here. So I think we're going to be okay. Here's the two back plates. This one comes apart in several pieces like this, and all this will be glued and screwed together. So one plate is on one side, the other plate's on the other side. So I basically just finished printing all this, and so what I'm doing now is, because the printer that I'm using isn't, absolutely precise. And so what I'm having to do is I'm having to like file down these edges here so that they'll fit in the coil housing like this. I've also printed out some coil ends so that I could wrap these guys prior to actually putting them together. Like this. I would leave enough room so it could mount, into the coil. And I'll glue these on like this, and then I could wrap the wire like that, and then put it together like this. And then this guy attaches to the back plate. You can see there's little grooves, there's little notches here that mate with the back plate. And so it mates in like that. I got to do a little filing. But, you can see it mates in there like that on this side. And then on the other side, the mating side of this, it has the same thing for this side. All right? I think you guys can figure it out. So what I need to do now is I need to figure out what kind of magnets I'm going to put in here, and whether I want to offset this like this. You know what I mean? Like offset it like this, and then like that, and like that, or just butt it up against it like this, and then just crazy glue it together. I'm really not sure. What's missing from this pile here is the main gear, which I have in the vise now. It's being crazy glued. But yeah, this all took a couple of weeks to print. And it was funny because I just upgraded my extruder to a all metal extruder. And oh man, what a difference. I wish I had done that before I started this. So all of these over here, these are from previous iterations where these were coil housings. I still may do something with that. That's this iteration. Oh, not that one. Where is it? That's the first iteration. And then I did print these out. These are bearing housings, so that everything will spin. So my only concern is that this will be too tight and it won't be able to flow freely. But I think with the bearings, it might have a chance. It might have a chance. So what I'm doing now, as I said, I'm having to file off these ends here so that they'll fit inside the housing. It's not so much that, it's these corners here, the little corners. So I'm just chiseling those out as well, and then these fit pretty good. And then I'm gonna see what kind of bearings I'm going to use. I'm probably going to use magnets. I'm going to use disc magnets. And I may not fill all these slots. I mean, that's a lot. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. So there's probably like 60 slots, right? I may group it, like do 5, have a space, do 4, have 4 space, do another 4 space. I don't know. I haven't figured out what circuit I'm going to use either. If I'm going to just try and do a Hall sensor, if that would even work. I'm not sure. As far as these 3 coils are concerned, and again, I'm doing the bigger coils. Whoops. I'm doing the much bigger coils. This was the first iteration. What I may do is when I first wire it up, I'm gonna wind all 3 of them, but I may just hook one up to a regular pulse circuit and see what that does, or I'll hook up all 3 of these in series. And it will be a little bit easier because these are much bigger. So I'll only have, a certain amount of gap. So there'll be one there, there'll be one there, and then there'll be one down here. So if I were to, here, let me get this guy in here. All right, so like this, and then like this. Wait a minute, hold on. All right, so it would be something like this. They would be spaced out a little bit more evenly. So you'd have the 3 coils. All of that is mounted to this back plate here. All right, so, and then the planetary gears go out here, and then there's a bigger gear that goes in the middle there. They're all bolted together, and again, it's sandwiched in with these 2 plates. So what I need to do is I need to glue these bad boys together. Which one is this? This one goes here, like this. I forgot how it went. You guys get the picture though. So basically it's going to look like this when it's all done. Been working on this for a long time. I can't wait to get it together. And I finished, well, I almost finished the big coil. This thing is heavy. I should weigh this thing, but there's the 3 leads because this is a tri-file. I haven't soldered them up yet, but I did put some braces there just to kind of hold it. I also lathered it up with resin, and I'm gonna roll this. I'm gonna wind these guys next. So this is what the coil will look like pre-wind for the, he's calling this a solenoid motor. So that's what we're going to call it. It's a solenoid motor. And it's pretty cool. So SpaceManAust, here I am. I printed out a lot of stuff. But yeah, so now it's just a matter of, all the little nitpicking stuff, like, getting the corners of these chewed out so that these guys will fit in there, figuring out what magnets to put in there. I have a bunch of different magnets here. I'm going to try some. Hold on a second. Let me see what I... All right, so I was thinking about these, but a little bit bigger. That will fit. It'll fit in there. I got to get the right one. Well, yeah, so it'll definitely fit in there. It's a little bit shaky, so I think I'd have to get one a little bit bigger than this. But I'm not going to try to find something that's going to fit exact. And I'm definitely not going to go for square magnets because I don't even think they make square magnets like this. They probably do, but I think they'll be a little expensive. So I think the disc magnets are probably the way to go. Definitely bigger than this though, because that takes more than half. So yeah, if I get one about a third bigger than this, and again, I'm going to get as many as I can, but we'll see. Ciao. So I found these just hanging around in the garage. The only problem with these, I mean, they would fit good, and I can actually put two of them in there, one on this side and one on the other side. The only problem is the way the poles are set up. These poles are obviously set end to end. I forget what that's called, and that's not going to work here. The poles need to be on either side, like a disc magnet. But I'll figure it out. I know Spaceman um, sent me some schematics on the ones that he's going to use. Oh yeah, and I also got some bearings. So here is the coil. I mean the bearing housing, which would go on the outside of the back plate, which would then hopefully allow uh, the gears to spin freely. And I got these guys, which I think are going to work out great. But again, I'm not really sure yet. All right, I think this has been long enough of me just drolling on. Spaceman, this is awesome. You got mad CAD skills. I don't know how you're able to whip this out so good. You probably do it for a living. But yeah, hopefully within the next week or so, I'll have this thing completely assembled, and we'll get this guy up and running. I noticed that on this drawing here, you took out the bearing holders. So I'm curious, did you 86 those in your design, or did you just not put them in for this particular drawing? Oh, and also too, you see that I went with the solid coils. They were a lot easier to print than the ones with than the hollow or the cutout version. Although now that I have that new extruder, I may try the cutout version. In fact, I may print. I noticed that the new magnet housings that you sent have holes cut out for screws, which is brilliant. So that we can screw these together instead of gluing them together. So it would be like this, but it would screw together. And so I may, while I'm playing with this, I may just print those out because I think that's the way to go. Anyway, my friend, thank you. Ciao.